This video, I'm going to be dropping a couple of tips for College Football 25, what to do when the game drops, and just going to have this kind of like first look gameplay in the backdrop. Want to kind of go over, really the core of how you're going to be able to get really good really quickly at this new game. Now, anytime there's a new game that drops, especially one like this, where it's been several years since we've seen a college football game, it really is going to be literally an entirely new game. And while there are principles that will cross apply from Madden to college football, there are things that are going to be making college football unique. Now, that being said, in terms of how to master the game as quickly as possible, a couple things. On the offensive side of the ball, what you want to do is you want to try to figure out what are the effective routes in this game. Is it a post route that beats man? And really, this really comes down more so to man beaters. You want to try to find routes that consistently can work against man coverage, because if they can work against man coverage, then you can put different routes together to be able to make them effective against zone coverage. So, and of course, match coverage is kind of just essentially delayed man coverage in a way. And so that is going to give you kind of the full arsenal in terms of your routes. So you want to try to figure out what are the routes that are really, really good. Typically, it's going to be corner routes, post routes, crossing routes. In routes are, I think, going to be really good this year, especially with the custom route stems. The in routes have always been really good. The only thing that has really kept in routes negative is just that the reason what makes an in route really good is a sharp cut, but you can only get them to go to 10 yards. Well, now with the custom route stems, you can get them to go to 15, 20, 35-yard in routes. So you can have as deep of in routes as you want. So I think that's going to be a big thing, is finding what routes beat man. My prediction is going to be out routes, in routes, corner routes, post routes. Those typically do beat mans. From what I've heard, slant routes are going to be back. In Madden 24, slant routes were completely broken. Slant routes are going to be good again against man coverage, but you want to try to find those man-beating concepts, those man-beating routes. What are the best routes in the game for beating man coverage? And then how can you take those routes and build concepts around them that are going to create high-low strains on the defense? For example, a streak corner flat, or otherwise known as a flood concept, the main route that's a man beater in that route combo is a corner route, right? The flat's not going to beat man great. Streak's typically not going to beat man great, but the corner route's going to be a great man-beating route. But by putting a streak and a flat, then you've created a high-low strain on that curl flat defender, essentially. So you're trying to, again, find man beaters and then turn those man beating routes into zone beaters. Another thing that's really critical in terms of your offense for the first, couple of weeks of the game is really trying to find that, what's that cover 3 beater? What's that cover 2 bomb? What's that cover 4 bomb? What are those one-play touchdown formulas? How are they going to work in this game? If you could find those out really quickly, that's going to really help you in terms of being able to cross-apply to your different games. Now, as you see on your screen here, it is talking a little bit about the option game. I believe College Football 25 is going to be a big option game. How does RPOs work? How do options work? How do you make those good? Is the Jurtle pitch going to be good? I don't know for sure, but you want to be trying to find, what are the best runs in the game? Because typically every year there's going to be 1 or 2 runs that are going to be super, super effective. It might be the option in college football. It might be the inside zone. It might be the halfback base. It might be the counter. It might be the stretch. What are the good runs in the game? And then how can you utilize those running plays to be able to attack the left, the middle, the right, a full 3-headed rushing attack that attacks the entire horizontal space of the line of scrimmage? Another tip that I have for you in terms of building an offense in the first week the game comes out is kind of learning, essentially, kind of learning like the ball carry moves. In College Football 25, it's a wide open game. They've talked about that in their gameplay blogs. It's going to be a wide open game. You're going to be able to make people miss in space. What's that good ball carry move? Typically, there's normally 1 or 2 moves that really outshine the other one. So is it the spin move? Is it the juke move? Is it the stop and go? Is it the swerve, right? You want to try to those kind of tactics typically resurface within new games. You're trying to figure out what is the best way to play this game. Now, as we look here, just real quick at this playbook screen here, we do have the bunch strong offset, the bunch X nasty. I would typically, this is just my advice, you could take it or leave it, I would start with an offense that you already kind of know is going to be good. For example, bunch offset, trips tight end, bunch strong offset, those are good formations. The reason I would start there is because those formations are going to have the routes that are going to showcase the main concepts that you're going to then want to utilize from other formations. For example, it's going to show you how a good post route is going to work. It's going to show you how to get to a cover 3 beater. You can then take that route combination and cross apply it to whatever formation you run. It's why you always want to start with trying to identify really what's the good stuff in the game, and then how can I apply the good stuff in the game to whatever formation, whatever scheme I want to run. Now, that being said, I wanted to kind of flip over to defense and just give a couple of thoughts in terms of how to build a defense. Most important thing on defense every single year, it doesn't matter what year of Madden, it doesn't matter what year of college football, you are trying to find blitzes. And in college football, with the removal of base align, you're really going to probably more than likely be basing out of one main defense. And that defense needs the ability to be able to get pressure. As you see a really good spin move right there. That defense really needs to be able to get pressure. And typically, just historically speaking, it's going to be a send 4, a send 5, and a send 6. Those are normally the main like blitzing formulas that you're really looking at. Like, I want to send 4 to 6 players, and I want that to be able to consistently come in at the very least against 5 out, but more likely, ideally, especially if you're sending 6, you want that to come in against a blocked running back, against a blocked tight end. So you want to be testing what you're really looking and searching for. What is that good blitz, right? And my advice, and I did a video on this last night, I think that, the 3-3, the nickel defenses like 3-3-5 odd, 3-3-5, 2-4-5 odd, 3-3-5 normal. Some defenses like that are going to be really good. And the reason why is because if those linebackers are blitzing in the play, which those formations have a lot of plays with linebackers blitzing, they're not going to move without that base line. So even though you're not going to have base line on, you're still going to have a really good alignment in a nickel set, typically based off of how the game has been played before. So that's why I think you're going to see a lot more of like a cover 0 base shell or a cover 3 blitz base shell, and then adjusting out of those two things. And the reason being is because the defenders will not move if they're in all these various different formations, which you ultimately are going to experience playing this game. So that's a big deal. The other thing that I wanted to say is I think in general, it's going to be hard for me to see a man-to-man meta going forward. I think you're going to be playing a lot of zone, and I would just really start out with like basic coverages, cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, kind of learning the strengths and weaknesses of those coverages, and also learning how to utilize switch stick. Switch stick is going to be the biggest skill gap in college football, and I would argue it's probably going to be the biggest skill gap in Madden. Mastering skill, the switch stick is going to be super, super important. So, and the best way to utilize switch stick from my perspective, and I think from everybody's perspective that's really researched or seen this feature, is going to be to use it via zone coverage, right? Using zone coverage and allowing that to essentially, switch to the defender to cover that hole in the coverage is going to be super, super important. So running basic zone coverages would be what I would start. And the reason being is because that's going to allow you to then not only understand how the coverages work, but also it's going to teach you how to use switch stick. Last thing I want to give you a little piece of advice on defense. I would focus on really basic coverages that take away basic concepts. So, for example, if you were playing someone and they're running a streak corner flat concept, the things you cannot give up is the streak and the flat. The corner route is fine because that is a hard throw. I talk about it really from a basketball lens. A basketball lens in general, you want to be able to take away the three-pointer and you want to be able to take away the layup. But you are willing to live with forcing difficult mid-range shots on the run consistently. Most defenses would say that's where we want them to have to shoot, right? I think the same principle kind of applies to Madden. We want to make sure that they can't really run the ball. I think run defense is going to be really important next year as you see Donovan Edwards going crazy on the screen. You're going to need run defense. You're going to need deep zone coverage, right? Cover 3, cover 4 shell. And then you're going to need that hard flat coverage to be able to take away underneath. If you have a deep zone, a hard flat, couple that with a 5-man blitz, and then a good user and a good switch stick, I think that's going to be the key to effective defense in college football 25. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you want to take your game to the next level, you want to get updated with the latest tips and strategies to get better at college football 25, we post 3 videos a day here on this channel. You could subscribe for free just by hitting that button down below.